Gonna have to see what the future holds, but sometimes things just fall into place. One thing I was contemplating for the outdoor kitchen was doing some water catchment right off the top. Might hook it up to the actual water line too. Then I had a friend who was picking up some of those from vinegar. So vinegar was in it before. I like that over like an oil or something. And you know, food use only, decent price. In fact, cheaper than I've seen for a minute. And he was heading over here. He was gonna drop this off for the moment. So I said, well, you got room for any extra? And he says, well, I can stack up some for you. So these are actually his. He put 2 on top and just was able to deliver them just like that. And it was just yesterday he happened to mention what he was doing on his way over. And I'm like, yo, is there a chance? And he goes, yeah, I can do that. So boom, just like that. And then this actually might come in handy because he's got a hole digger. Boy, the closest thing I saw to that back in Wisconsin, I think, was the ice augers we would use to go ice fishing. But there's a chance in just a couple days he might help me dig some footers with that for my concrete slab on the root cellar. And that's not the only exciting thing that happened today.
I'm not gonna be on this.
No, you're not?
You want me to?
We got a box today that we've been waiting on for a while. I originally ordered these July 4th, and they were supposed to be delivered July 21st. And I paid for everything, and they lost the shipment somewhere along the way. So then I had to reorder, and now we finally got them like a month after I was expecting to get them. But we're excited about these. This is a book that Pinky and I worked on together. How'd you enjoy it?
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, fun. So, baby opossums and stuff like that. It's called Coop Invader, the opossum you never knew. Opossums are North America's only marsupial. There's many amazing things about them and a lot of fun facts people just don't know. So we thought, what a great way to educate people of all ages, have a nice book, a good storyline that, you know, parents can read to their children, or even young learners can begin to read. And we thought that was special. We've been offering them on Amazon for a bit now, and now we can have autographed copies in our Etsy shop. Are you excited about this?
Yes.
Thanks for all your hard work. So stay tuned for that. There'll be a link in the description. And besides that, I've been working on cleaning up some of these. These are some cedars that thankfully I have a neighbor who's got a number of them on his property. He says he doesn't want any on his property. He said if I was looking for cedars to use, I was free to have at them. So right now I'm cleaning them up a bit so the bark's off and all the little branches where they were sticking out, that they're not all rough anymore. Just using this nice knife and a rasp. Here's a little branch sticking out. Pull that across there a couple times and we're pretty smooth. May do some curing for the end of it. Make sure no termites or ants come up in it. And this stuff I'm still gonna sand down real nice and probably hit with like a shellac, a spar varnish, some sort of kind of glossy coating to it to make it look real nice. But the actual purpose of this video is to mention something to you guys. If you guys have gardened or homesteaded for a while, you're probably gonna be very familiar with this concept. If you haven't, it may be a good opportunity for you to start getting your head right ahead of time and give you a couple things to think about. And the basic premise for it actually came from a conversation I was having with my friend who dropped off those IBC totes and who has his trailer and tractor and stuff here right now. And the deal is really that the American consumer mindset has really ruined a lot of things for people, and it's really set them back where they've got this bit to overcome before they can really enjoy a gardening or a homesteading lifestyle. Thankfully, there's things out there right now that can give some more of a exposure to the general idea. Sometimes it's just the cost-saving opportunities that something like Misfit Market is going to bring. But basically, for the American consumer mindset, there's kind of some standardized things. There's a lot of different cows you can milk, for instance, but if you go to the store, you may only have milk from a certain breed or a couple of them. There's a lot of different cattle you can eat, for instance, but if you just go to the store to get your ground beef, there's probably only certain ones, and there's some you're never going to taste. Once you start looking at the produce section, I mean, celery is going to be pretty standardized. Carrots are going to be pretty standardized. You pretty much just have the carrots about that long and orange, or you have the baby carrots. You look at some of the other stuff, it's all going to be the same. You're going to open your cartons of eggs, and all of your eggs are going to be white across the board. You may get some, you know, that are marketed as like, you know, farm eggs or something, or brown eggs, and then you have the brown eggs. But especially once you go into the garden, things kind of really change, you know, and you're only really presented with what works well for the corporations who are going to be supporting you as a consumer, or the ones that you are supporting as a consumer. So how do they get the most bang for their buck the quickest? What puts out the greatest harvest the quickest? What animal gets up to slaughter weight the quickest? What plant, you know, produces just across the board as quick as possible? And then there's so many things added to the food to make sure it's all the same. You should be surprised. I mean, you'd be surprised if you really looked into how much is invested in just making food a certain color. And because of that, you know, an apple, generally to most people, is going to be about that big, and it's going to be red. Maybe you'll have some about that big that are going to be green. Something like a tomato, you generally only have, like, you know, your big ones, your Romas, or your grapes. And that's about it. And they're all going to be perfect, you know, without spot or blemish. And a lot of them are going to be covered in wax to make them kind of hold their shape, give them a shine, be a protective layering on the outside. Well, you start getting out in the garden, and you got some weird looking ones. They're just oblong. They're not right. They've got a brown spot on them. And if you're not ready to move past that American consumer mentality, you're going to be like, are these even right? Can we even eat these? I mean, this one's shaped weird, or this one has a spot on it. And what you realize once you step out of that mentality is, you know, I can have an ugly shaped tomato that's going to taste exactly the same. I can have a bell pepper with a spot on it, like, you know, the size of a dime or a nickel, and the rest of it, you know, the other 95, 98% of it's going to be perfectly fine. But you have to be willing to move past that American consumer mindset to really enjoy it. And the reason that the conversation came up is I was talking about some of these peaches. I was talking with my friend about some of these peaches. Have a recent video about what really happens when you grow fruit from seed. Now, we had a peach tree here. I'll insert a small clip, and it'll show you us enjoying some full-size amazing peaches that look like your average peach. Darling, feel this one here, because you can probably reach it from the ground, and see if it's ready.
It feels nice and soft, yeah.
Does it? Well, why don't you pull that down?
I think anyway.
And Pinky, would you bring that knife over?
baby ducks at our feet. They're so friendly.
They're everywhere.
Wow, look how pretty that
Darling.
is.
Darling.
So tasty.
My lady, you may have first bite for our family.
As Papa likes to say, it is a happy day for my people.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
I saw juices come out, my lady.
Wow. Oh my. That is so delicious.
Really? Oh, darling. And
Yummy.
it was just because I told the neighbor to stop brush hogging when he was going to chop down a bunch of these. This is not a special peach. It's just one that grew from seed. Yeah?
That is so
Could you cut us each a slice of that one?
Oh.
So sometimes when you grow from seed, you're going to wind up with something that's rather recognizable. But some neighbors up the street, they had one growing from a peach pit at the border of their property, probably from somebody just chucking out the window. And when theirs ripen, they're only this big. And they ripen to like this lime green, slight orange color. So if you have an American consumer mindset, you're not thinking, oh look, I got a bunch of ripe peaches on a tree. You're gonna think I got a bunch of peaches that never reached their full size and never fully matured. Now that is not the case, and actually if I bite into this, this is 100% delicious peach. Inside there's even a full-size pit. But that does not look like a big ripe peach. I've got plums in the fridge right now bigger than this. That does not look right to the American consumer mindset. A homesteader, a gardener, we need to step out of that and be like, yeah, that is a fully ripe, absolutely amazing, fully mature peach that I really enjoy because I gave it the opportunity. You wind up sometimes now, like I said, with Misfit Market, they're going to sit there and offer you food that's just perfectly fine. It just doesn't look perfectly fine sometimes. It's a weird shape or it's whatever. Good chance to save some money and get your hands on some great food. Then you have people too who, for the novelty of it, they start marketing stuff. I mean, look at this donut peach. Okay, we've been buying these lately. I can actually get 4 of these right now for just over $1 at a local store, which I think is great. My friend, the one who dropped off his tractor and stuff, who I was talking to, you know, he'd never even seen one like this. And I've seen these for a number of years. Probably at least 3-4 years ago I was seeing these. And because we were willing to give them a try because of the novelty of it, you know, these donut peaches, they're shaped weird. The pits are even shaped weird. And they're another one where, not exactly a peach colored flesh in there. A very nice white flesh, but it's a weirdo. It doesn't look right. If I'm trained to only accept a certain type of peach, I'm gonna look at something like this and be like, yeah, that's really not for me. That's not how I was raised on peaches. Or same thing with this. Oh yeah, that's small and it's weird and it's the wrong color. I don't think that's the right peach. And people will be like, oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. No, it just doesn't look right to me. We can be that way if we want, but I don't want to stay locked into that mindset. I had a video a while ago where I was talking about telling people to get over themselves. We don't want to block ourselves into such a foolish box, especially in the uncertainty of it all. You know, we may have to step out of our comfort zone. We may have to try eating some weirdo food. We may have to sit there and be like, you know what? Maybe not all eggs are nice little white ones from the store. This one looks like you might be able to get at the store. Maybe that brown one. Some of these other ones, not so much. But I know they're all eggs. It's amazing too, like when you start having your own eggs, you may notice like little white strands almost in the yolks, or yeah, in the whites, or a little spot of blood on the yolk, or just a very rich orange yolk rather than the traditional yellow. There's things that with fresh eggs you get to experience that you really don't get from the store. It's stepping out away from what you're used to and comfortable with and being like, okay, this is different. I remember doing some things and just researching like, is this okay? and then finding out like, oh yeah, it's actually a sign it's even better for you. And all these look like eggs on the inside, but like I said, if they were fertilized, there may be a little spot of blood. If they're really fresh, you might find some kind of white stringy things in the whites. And these yolks, if they're getting a good diet, they may be a vibrant orange you're just not used to getting at the store. Personally, I don't mind sitting there and having such a variety of stuff because I'm okay with a variety. I don't need it all to be the same. I know people that will only eat white eggs. I know people like that. I know people that will only eat eggs from the store, and somehow, like, if it comes from your homestead or from your poultry pen, they're gonna be like, oh, that's weird. Or if it's the wrong color on the outside, they're gonna be like, yeah, I don't think that's a real egg. And what that is people getting indoctrinated to the American consumer mindset. There's a whole world outside of just peaches that all look the same, or eggs that all look the same, or tomatoes that all look the same, or apples that all look the same. And if you're not willing to have some kind of misshapen head of cabbage that's got some wormholes in it, you may not be a successful gardener ever because you're not willing to get out from that kind of trap that you've trapped yourself in by being an American consumer. And this is, true for other countries too. They can have the same thing happen. I just speak from the point of view I'm at, which is an American who grew up as a consumer, not a producer, not going and taking care of my own stuff and doing something different. I'm learning to step out of that. I want to encourage others, and I want to let them know, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay if your chicken doesn't lay perfect white eggs every time. If you have a chicken that lays a different color, that's fine. If you have a peach tree that you grew from seed, yeah, it's not true to kind. It's not exactly like the parent, but is it a peach? Sure. Does it taste good? Yeah, it really does. Okay, so can you enjoy that then? Can you be blessed with that? Can you get a couple hundred of these a year off of the tree in your yard and not have to run down and pay a ridiculous amount for some peaches at the store? I would rather. If you'd rather say that one looks weird, I'll go pay a bunch of money at the store. You're free to do so if you can afford it. But I'm not thinking there's wisdom in it. I'm thinking that you've been trained to be a consumer and kind of locked into a mental cage that it'd be best if you could find the key and free yourself from. A lot of you as gardeners probably realize how much better it tastes to do it yourself, to get it straight out of your garden and enjoy it. And even if it doesn't look perfect, you know the flavor, you know the nutrients, you know the nutrition, and you can sit there and just stand in awe and be amazed that from your own ground you can eat that. I know some people too who, city mouse, country mouse. The country mouse is supposed to be the dumb one, right? The city mouse is supposed to be the incredible one, but the city mouse will come out to the country mouse. And I know some who, I don't want to eat that because that came from your dirt, that's dirty. They all did. They all came from the soil, potatoes, onions, things like that, carrots. Just because it happens to be the one here doesn't make it unclean or yucky or something else. It's just that somebody did it themselves. Now, if that's too much for you to get over, fine. Don't get over it. But I would practice getting over it ahead of time. Especially, we face a recession. We're in one. We face a depression. We face hyperinflation. We face food shortages. That's all looming on the horizon for us right now. It is. So, can you handle something a little different or not? Because don't magically think you're just going to switch it off. And, now I'm going to eat everything. Now it's all going to be wonderful. Because you're not going to have any frame of reference for it. You're not going to have any practice on it. You're setting yourself up for failure right now thinking, if everything drastically changes, I'll just drastically, amazingly change like that too. Well, the drastic changes have been in the works for a while. Those things have a momentum to them. There's a traveling distance that is approaching something. So if you're holding your ground and then you think that you're just going to amazingly just switch one day, I don't think you are. I think you might want to be progressing a certain direction to be able to be successful. That would be my belief. And my encouragement to you is to start getting some momentum in your life. Start shifting out of the American consumer mindset. Start lowering your standard if it's an unrealistic standard that doesn't have any basis in anything. We shouldn't eat just because of what color the food is. We shouldn't eat just because of, you know, the appearance of the food. Now, yeah, some things you're going to look at and they're going to be completely nasty. But just because something's a different shape or has a different look to it or happens to be a different color doesn't all of a sudden make it not food or not safe for human consumption or something that we should just avoid because it's not what we've grown accustomed to. They were all this shape before and really red and they were orange on the inside. Yeah, I get it. But that doesn't mean this isn't a peach. This doesn't mean, well, this one was so delicious I ate the whole thing. It's a pit. And when I plant it, it'll probably grow something weird. That's going to be a peach. So that's where I'm at, guys. I just thought it was interesting because I wasn't really understanding some of the underlying factors of just kind of the American consumer mindset that come into play when people are a knee-jerk reaction resistant to something that just looks different, has a different shape to it, a different color to it, whatever it may be. But that's where it comes from. And even, you know, the people whose tree we picked from, because it's on their property, so we're going to call it their tree even though they didn't plant it, they never had a peach off that tree. I bet it's because they were never recognizing that there were ripe peaches on the tree because they were not the size or the color that triggered the mental response for them to realize, hey, those are ripe. Okay? The passion fruits we have growing here, there's passion fruits that'll ripen to yellow, there's ones that'll ripen to purple, there's other colors around. Ours ripen to green. So the completely unripe, flavorless one is about that big and green. The amazingly, just so much flavor and intensity to it that's ripe is about that big and green. They're virtually indistinguishable. The ripe one will be heavier, but there's a weight that comes into the ones that are flavorless and not ready. So when they start dropping to the ground, we have a video on it, that's when we realize, oh, they're ripe. It hit the dirt. Well, you watch a fruit tree. That's how I knew these were ripe. These little ones, they were hitting the ground. I said, well, if they're dropping already, and it's not just because they're shriveling up in a drought, they're reaching their full maturity. And even in our duck pen, I've got a whole tray of pits from the peaches that were hitting the ground in our duck pen because they were gobbling them up. They were ripe and juicy and hitting the ground, and we were waiting for more of a color change. We didn't realize that they were ripe. Now, they were the size of regular ones, but they were more of a lime green, light orange color that wasn't exactly triggered in our mind. Oh, look, a beautiful ripe peach. So they got a ton of them before we even realized they were ripe. That's part of why I'm trying to shift away from this. That's part of why I'm trying to learn how the real world works. Oh, the ripe fruit is barely hanging on. It just hit the ground. It was fully mature and ripe. Whoa, let's see who else is squishy up here. Let's see who else is ready. And then we started enjoying them after some stuff happened. Man, learn how the real world works. Check out how things really happen when they're not mass produced, picked early, dyed different colors or coated in wax and different things just to have a nice presentation so they all look the same size, the same color, the same shape at the store for you. Step outside of that, become a producer, not a consumer, and set yourself up for success in the future. And as an added bonus, I'm going to try to, by the time this video comes up, you'll be able to find a link in the pinned comment and in our description that has the opossum book that Pinky Pepper took all the photos for, and she co-wrote the storyline, a fact-filled fiction book full of just amazing information about North America's only marsupial. That should be available in our Etsy shop. I will have that ready for you guys. If you order, we'll send you an autographed copy. So I appreciate you guys supporting us. Appreciate you guys learning more about the wonderful creatures that God created and just how amazing they are. And if you like that book and you want some other stuff in the future, we've got a couple other ones already written on some different subjects, and we may do some more like that in the future too. So thanks once again for watching. Feel free to leave a comment and a like. That really helps. And I guess even if you're not sharing, if you click that share button a couple times, I guess that helps the algorithm recommend these videos to other people too. I'm not sure if it works yet. I may do some experiments sometime with your guys' help, but feel free to give it a try. It might help. I'll see you next time. Papa out. The cow head is good?
Yeah.
That's because you know.